New home sale, new home purchase. Often when people purchase a property, they have a company go out and inspect it to see whether there are any defects. But what happens if that company fails to reveal some defects? Well, that takes us to this week's case. It involves a couple down in West Virginia. They purchased a house. They hired a company prior to the purchase that was contracted to go out and look for defects. Company came away saying, well, there might be some problems, but basically the house looks pretty good. Couple moves in. After they get settled, they find what? Major water damage. They spend $36,000 in order to repair that damage. Well, needless to say, they're not happy with the company they hired to find defects, and they sue the company. They sue the company, and the company says, guess what? We're not at fault. We're not at fault. Why? Because look at the contract. Look at the contract. Contract says we're not responsible in the event we fail to reveal any defects that are in the property after the sale closes. Well, couple wasn't happy with this at all, as to be anticipated. They said, wait a second, that's what we hired you guys to do, to find defects. Now you've got this contract that says, hey, if we don't reveal defects, we're not at fault. They said, that's right. That's what the contract provides. You had an opportunity to read the contract. You signed the contract. You have to live with it. They said, this is not fair. So they sued them. Went all the way up to the West Virginia Supreme Court of Appeals. And the West Virginia Supreme Court of Appeals said, guess what? You guys, when you put that together, violated public policy. They looked to, the court looked to various regulations in West Virginia that govern this kind of activity and said, when you agree to go out and find defects, you can't have a contract that says we're not responsible in the event we don't find defects. That is plain wrong. It's against public policy. As a result, they said that the couple could go forward with their case against the company that was hired to find those defects and simply prove up the amount of damages that they had as a result of having to repair the house. Okay, so what do we learn from this case? What do we learn from this case? Well, it's very clear that what we learn is that a contract does govern the relationship between parties with respect to a service or a good or something that's sold or purchased. But that contract is governed by an even higher law, and that higher law is enshrined in the common law, the various cases that were decided prior to that specific case. And this higher law, the common law, and many times state regulation, will articulate public policy, and public policy does control. Public policy can, in fact, completely vitiate a contract, make it completely unenforceable by either party, or just make some parts of it unenforceable. And that is true because, in fact, we as a society have certain rules that govern us, and those rules are, in fact, supreme. Where do we find those rules? We find them in the common law. We find them in cases that were decided prior to the case at issue. We find them in the various legislative enactments. So just because the contract says something, does that mean the contract controls? Not necessarily. Okay, we bring you this case as we bring you cases every week so you understand how the law works. I'm David Allen.